Audrey Blake strode through the bustling airport terminal, raindrops clinging to her trench coat as if reluctant to part ways. The storm outside had been relentless, and she had rushed from her downtown meeting straight to one of the city's busiest gateways. Her dark jeans and a simple sweater, paired with low heels, were a practical choice for a day of travel and work, but they did little to fit in with the crisp uniforms and business suits that filled the upscale lounge. Damp hair framed her face as she maneuvered through the crowd, clutching a small leather briefcase closely to her side. Audrey sensed fleeting glances, the silent assessments from well-dressed passengers and poised airline crew members as she made her way to the gate. Her unusual appearance among the polished travelers made her an anomaly, one that drew quiet curiosity or mild judgment. Boarding the aircraft, Audrey's presence barely registered until a confident voice sliced through the ambient murmur of pre-flight preparations. A flight attendant named Rachel, with sleek hair tied back in a pristine bun, appraised her with a withering look. Assuming Audrey was out of place, Rachel's lips curled into a condescending smile. "Excuse me," Rachel instructed sharply, her fingers deftly adjusting a uniform seam. "Can you help serve the drinks once we're airborne? You clearly know where the carts are. And perhaps find a moment to dry off." It was a thinly veiled jab at Audrey's rain-soaked state and unassuming attire. A ripple of amusement passed through the crew within earshot. Audrey met Rachel's gaze steadily, her expression betraying nothing. "Certainly," Audrey replied calmly, her voice as neutral as the gray skies looming outside. "I'll take care of it." With those words, she turned gracefully, heading further into the aircraft's cabin. As Audrey walked through the airplane, her mind was focused, unaffected by Rachel's assumptions. She moved with poise past the rows of passengers settling in. Her calm veneer masked the anticipation underneath. Audrey was not just traveling for business, she was entering a new chapter as the one at the helm of this airline, the very aircraft she had just boarded. Ignoring the whispers and glances of the cabin crew who wondered who she really was, Audrey made her way toward the cockpit, a path that symbolized moving toward command. The door opened to reveal two familiar faces, the senior pilot, Captain Evans, and the chief flight officer. Both stood and greeted her with authentic warmth, ushering her inside. "Welcome aboard, Ms. Blake," Captain Evans said with a smile that radiated assurance and respect. "Good to see you both," Audrey replied, her mood lifting as she stepped beyond the confines of the passenger area. Here, she found the familiarity and respect she expected. "Thank you for preparing this meeting flight. Everything is ready when you are," the chief flight officer added, nodding. The cockpit was filled with the soft hum of technology and the promise of clear skies after takeoff. Audrey settled into the jump seat they had prepared for her, reviewing a tablet filled with the company's latest data and performance metrics. As she adjusted the sleek headset, tuning out the world outside, a sense of steadying control washed over her. Meanwhile, back near the galley, Rachel relished in her ignorance. Leaning casually against the counter, she shared her encounter with the rain-soaked lady with her fellow crew members. Her disdain drew laughter and nods of agreement. Rachel's voice carried a mix of disdain and self-satisfaction that seemed to resonate with the team. "Can you believe she had the nerve to traipse in here like that?" Rachel exclaimed, rolling her eyes. "Honestly, people need to understand the importance of a dress code, especially in our line of work." Her colleagues chuckled, seemingly captivated by her account. Rachel's bravado filled the space, confident in her skewed perception of superiority. She couldn't have been more wrong about the stranger she had just dismissed. As the plane prepared for its departure, the cabin crew began their safety checks while passengers fastened their seatbelts. Audrey remained in the cockpit for takeoff, reviewing her strategic plan with the captains, discussing how their routes might expand under her leadership. She could feel the engines rumbling, the anticipation of new horizons underscoring every exchange. Her thoughts were briefly disrupted by a familiar voice over the intercom. The chief flight officer spoke politely yet with inherent authority. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Flight 765 with service to San Francisco. We have a special guest on board today, entering as the new head of our airline family." Audrey smiled at the crew members inside the cockpit, aware of how the announcement would affect those in the cabin unaware of her true identity. The thrill of such moments, where capabilities meet the unexpected, was something Audrey had always cherished in her career. In the cabin, Rachel paused mid-boast, eyes widening as the captain continued speaking. "Please welcome our new CEO, Ms. Audrey Blake, who looks forward to connecting with our remarkable team and valued customers as we chart new courses together." The realization hit Rachel like a sudden downward draft, striking and disorienting. The woman she had dismissed with such disdain was not only her superior, but she was the pivotal figure driving the airline's future. The laughter in the galley dissipated, replaced by a stunned silence that transmitted throughout the cabin as the weight of her error sank in. Audrey stepped out from the cockpit to move through the cabin, feeling the immediate shift in atmosphere. Heads turned, whispering voices faded away, and eyes filled with new recognition and respect followed her path. She held her head high, embodying the strength and clarity that had always driven her career. Each step she took resonated with the assertiveness and calm that came from years of navigating complex projects and leading transformative changes. Rachel, still stationed by the galley, stood rooted to the spot. Her confident facade crumbled as Audrey approached, bringing reality with her. Audrey's expression was composed, a hint of understanding in her eyes, a quiet acknowledgement that she had chosen to let the circumstances speak without direct confrontation. Their eyes met briefly, exchanging an unspoken recognition of the afternoon's irony. Audrey paused momentarily, then continued forward without a word, a subtle nod in Rachel's direction that managed to convey a world of sentiment. There was no need for harshness. Audrey embodied a subtle grace that promised accountability without humiliation. Returning to the cockpit, Audrey found herself with fresh understanding of the team she would be working with. She knew there were complexities and learning curves ahead, scattered like the dotted lights of constellations to be navigated. As the plane climbed above the clouds, the world below clouded away, but clarity of purpose remained. In the cockpit, the ease of collaboration with Captain Evans and the chief officer reaffirmed Audrey's ability to inspire trust and evoke the best from her team, all driven by the precision required for high-stakes roles. The flight represented more than just a journey. It was a reminder of why she belonged in this chair, forging paths through the skies and beyond. As the discussion came to a close, she stood, preparing to walk through the aisles once more, just before descent. Her rain-soaked beginning did not define the road she was on. It had merely reminded her of the path she had built with grit and perseverance. In that shared space, as the aircraft glided seamlessly towards the horizon, Audrey knew her leadership was set on a firm trajectory. She would lead with clarity, embedding new values and inspiring respect, proof that first impressions could indeed be deceiving, but the continued journey mattered far more than any opening scene. As the plane cruised toward its destination, seemingly suspended between clouds and sky, the captain's announcement of Audrey Blake as the new CEO rippled like a shockwave throughout the aircraft. Passengers, who had been immersed in their own worlds, books, laptops, or sleep, stirred to attention as interest peaked and whispers began to circulate. In the galley, Rachel was grappling with the stunning realization. Her gaze was fixed on the cabin door from which Audrey had emerged moments before, digesting the unpleasant aftertaste of her earlier judgment. Her colleagues, who had been witnesses to the earlier exchange, now exchanged uncomfortable glances, unsure of how to navigate the sudden shift in hierarchy and understanding. The previously bustling and relaxed cabin had become wired with a palpable tension, a charge of reconsideration hovering in the air. Passengers, whether regulars familiar with the company or newcomers simply enjoying their journey, responded with curiosity and keen interest in the unexpected development. Prominent among those reflecting on the announcement were the senior flight auditor and crew manager, who had been leafing through procedural documents in preparation for an upcoming review. Their peripheral observation of Audrey's initial boarding and subsequent interaction led to internal reckonings regarding their professional assessments and the broader implications of the new CEO's presence. As Audrey made her way back into the passenger cabin, she gracefully acknowledged nods and greetings with a mixture of modesty and quiet authority. Her understated attire, which had been subject to earlier assumptions, now seemed a mere cloak behind which lay substantial capability and experience. Her rain-soaked beginning no longer invited judgment but symbolized resilience, authenticity, and preparedness. The practical voice of Captain Evans soon filled the cabin once more, this time scheduling a brief meeting of onboard crew members soon after landing, an introduction to the new executive and an opportunity for direct dialogue with their freshly appointed leader. His words were measured, paralleling Audrey's own balanced approach. Audrey's presence among the passengers, casually moving through aisles, was followed by discreet conversations and deferential nods from the crew. Each interaction she engaged in carried subtleties of respect, signaling clearly where allegiances were being realigned. As she encountered various crew members, there was an inherent invitation to see beyond attire, beyond first perceptions, and delve into what truly mattered: professionalism, skill, and leadership. In her strategic leadership meetings, Audrey had always been adept at fostering environments where truth was spoken openly. Here, too, her demeanor likewise set the tone for openness and honesty. Observing the dynamics at play and the recalibration taking place was fascinating, a testament to how leadership could so immediately alter the landscape. Among the passengers, a business analyst named Mark, who frequently traveled on the airline's routes, watched with added interest. He recognized the poised agility of a leader shifting gears and saw in Audrey's demeanor an echo of his own corporate experiences. Engaging with a flight attendant about the changes, he noted, it takes someone remarkable to weather both weather and challenges with composure. This could lead to exciting developments for the airline. Rachel, meanwhile, stood at her station, knowing the meeting post-landing would require introspection and acknowledgement of her earlier actions. Her position within the hierarchy would necessitate humility, a difficult journey considering her past expressions of dismissive authority. She now faced the burden of facing and rectifying the imbalance her earlier judgment had invited. Audrey eventually returned to the cockpit, the strategic space where visions translated to direction, as Pilot Evans and the co-pilot prepared the aircraft for descent. The connection between them was one of mutual appreciation for trust, responsibility, and collaboration, qualities central to both flying and leadership. Upon landing, the aircraft moved with smooth precision to the gate. The visible acknowledgement from the ground crew, aware of Audrey's presence on board, foreshadowed the realignment of perception across domains, from ground operations to the skies above. Once docked, Audrey had time for a brief pause, a moment shared with Captain Evans and his team, bringing clarity and a glimpse into the promising adventures ahead for her in this high-flying role. The actual crew meeting that gathered in the airport's plush, expansive lounge post-flight was unlike any ordinary briefing. The atmosphere was charged yet anticipatory. Amongst the crew stood Rachel, tension visible in her stance. Yet the gathering was not only about oversight but also about connection and vision. Audrey stepped forward, warmth in her smile, extending past all formalities. Her introduction was simple, detailing her background in leading airport transformations, her focus on operational excellence, and the importance she placed on every single member's contribution to the collective, from frontline staff to administrative teams. Echoing her personal story, of why she chose to maintain her appearance, to observe and learn firsthand about her new team dynamic, Audrey radiated approachability and strength. I believe in seeing things as they are, for only then can we steer them as they should be, she told them, her words cutting through any former impressions tied to superficiality. Rachel, from her position near the back of the room, red-faced yet composed, understood the unspoken expectations placed before her. She was warmed unexpectedly by Audrey's generous inclusivity, recognizing a chance to realign her own professional path within this new era for the airline. For the remainder of the team, listening intently as Audrey outlined her vision, a new chapter was inaugurated. It was a chapter emphasizing trust and collaborative zeal, paving the way for innovation and collective success. As murmurs of agreement rippled through the gathering, respect found its mark, seated comfortably within the framework of sharpened professionalism and renewed allegiance. The gathering concluded, but the implications it laid bare would reverberate far beyond its confines. The substantive leadership Audrey exemplified marked a remarkable intersection between personal journey and professional reach, launching a new beacon for the paths unraveled ahead. With the meeting concluded, the assembled airline crew and staff found themselves flush with a renewed sense of purpose and alignment. While some of the team dispersed to resume their duties, others lingered, their conversations reflecting newfound respect for Audrey Blake. Standing confidently in the center, Audrey possessed the unique ability to infuse warmth into the polished corridor of the executive terminal. It was as if the air around her resonated with her principles, drawing people closer around her radiant sphere of influence. The narrative of her rain-soaked arrival, once a source of amusement, had transformed into a tale of inspiring resilience and humility. A senior executive, Charles Hammond, stepped forward to formally introduce Audrey to those who hadn't heard the details. Charles, a seasoned navigator of the airline industry's skies and storms, spoke with enthusiasm and esteem. In the field of aviation, it is rare to find someone who balances vision and pragmatism, a leader who both drives innovation and understands the fundamental intricacies of our business. His words settled over the group, a way of underscoring why Audrey was the right choice for the future. Ms. Blake led the transformative turnaround at Heathrow Airport, achieving not only profitability but making it an international model of efficiency and customer service, he continued, his voice carrying the weight of years spent evaluating potential and promise. Her international outreach for sustainable aviation strategies has positioned her as a pivotal voice at industry forums worldwide. Those gathered listened with renewed interest, seeing more dimensions of Audrey's impressive career unfold. More than titles and achievements, Charles detailed her journey as an advocate for frontline engagement, commitments apparent the moment she chose to meet them amid their daily environment, unrestrained by formality. Audrey nodded gratefully, taking the floor once more. "Thank you, Charles, for the generous introduction. My approach has always been fundamentally simple: understand your team, value every role, and drive collaboration." Her words wove an invisible thread of unity among the listeners. "I believe in direct dialogue because this is how we innovate and excel together." As the team shifted on their feet, preparing for departures, Audrey chose to share more of her backstory, inviting connection. She recounted her early career, detailing how she began by addressing customer service feedback at a local branch of a fledgling airline. "Each interaction taught me something new about communication and improvement," she recalled, realization lighting her features. "I came to understand that the greatest changes often start small, from within the walls of everyday interactions." Her career ascent had not been a traditional trajectory but rather a series of calculated leaps, propelled by a willingness to embrace change and encourage team potential. Her penchant for joining teams unannounced enabled her to witness firsthand an environment unclouded by the awareness of her authority, often revealing the most candid truths. Audrey's eyes met those of the young crew, her sincerity unmistakable. The reason for her current attire suddenly became a vivid tale's punctuation rather than a footnote to her credentials. "I was caught in the rain coming from an early morning meeting with our ground operations team. It wasn't just about logistics, it was about finding solutions that improve our shared experience." She allowed a moment to pass, the pause rendering weight to her narrative. What the attire doesn't show is the depth of the preparation, the commitment behind each decision. "Every decision is made for the empowerment of all of you." Her words struck a chord, resonating more deeply than any polished speech might have achieved. The honesty with which she spoke bypassed cynicism, drawing nods of agreement. The realization of what it means to work under Audrey's leadership took root here, stirring hope and resolve amongst the audience. After the formalities concluded, Audrey moved among the group, engaging individuals directly. She was adept at uncovering insights, listening more than speaking, ensuring everyone felt heard. Her genuine interactions left a mark on the team, once merely numbers on a roster, now valued members of a collective mission. For someone like Rachel, who had earlier stumbled over her assumptions, this seemed as if a heartfelt gesture. Audrey's presence eclipsed her misstep, paving a direction forward with opportunity, rather than hindsight. Audrey's closing words to the team were equal parts motivational and firm. Her vision was that they would no longer simply aim to keep pace with changes in the airline industry but instead advance it with foresight and innovation. She tasked them with thinking beyond immediate challenges and toward scalable solutions that defied traditional limitations. Success was not an abstract end state to her, it was a series of achievable milestones underlined by shared determination and accountability. With their interactions trailing off, the group began to disperse. It was apparent that Audrey had successfully shifted perceptions among them, highlighting the potential lying latent within their community. Impacts were felt beyond spoken words, subtly changing the currents of expectation and pride. Crew members who otherwise might have left such meetings focusing inwardly now turned to one another, re-examining old assumptions, discovering new synergies, feeling genuinely enthused about the road ahead. As they scattered along polished floors, echoes of enthusiasm followed. As Audrey took a final glance around the vacated room, she knew today marked an integral beginning, not just for her tenure, but for the very culture they were striving to reinvigorate. The conference room, once filled with skepticism and disbelief, now symbolized an illustrated possibility. Audrey Blake, the woman who had returned to power through humility, envisioned a focused path layered with collaboration and trust. Her journey was a testament to the transformative power of understanding and communication, its ripples starting from individual gestures, destined to reach far beyond the horizon. Finally, Audrey stepped back into the terminal's bright light, her confident stride speaking volumes. Her role was secure, not simply by appointment but through connection and tangible impact. She had infused those lights with purpose, with a vision that glimmered promisingly against the backdrop of a vast canvas, a sky eagerly awaiting its charts. The transformation that Audrey Blake instilled among the airline staff and flight crew was immediately perceptible, signaling the beginning of a new era. Yet, the environment of renewal and reverence couldn't mask the uncomfortable truth of how Rachel's earlier behavior had shaped the day. The glances exchanged between her and the crew said more than words could ever convey. Knowing that she had to answer for her conduct, Rachel prepared herself for the conversation she knew was coming. Upon returning to the office building, Rachel received a message requesting her presence in one of the managerial offices, an invitation she accepted with a mix of trepidation and resolve. As she navigated the hallways, each step brought reality into sharper focus, shedding light on the mounting necessity for accountability and introspection. Upon her arrival, Audrey met her with a nod, a calm smile that communicated recognition without any semblance of hostility. It was a softly lit room overloaded with potential, a space where judgments could be replaced by mutual understanding. Audrey's demeanor hinted at the chance for redemption rather than retribution, a direction toward engagement. Rachel, Audrey's voice was measured, yet constructive. I wanted to meet and discuss your thoughts on the flight and how we can better integrate team values moving forward. Her approach highlighted issues without isolating individuals, fostering an environment that valued growth over punishment. Rachel nodded, meeting Audrey's gaze without hesitation. The conversation they ventured into was not merely confrontational but encompassing, a discourse about the nuances of leadership and how premature judgments can cloud collective progress. Having witnessed Audrey's conduct and realizing the importance of her words, Rachel expressed sincere regret for her misunderstanding, acknowledging the importance of every person's contribution and how assumptions could tarnish collaborative integrity. Rachel's reflections conveyed an innate alignment with the airline's ideals, underscoring her willingness to embrace improvement. "I'm truly sorry for how I behaved earlier," Rachel admitted, a tinge of earnestness inflecting her tone. "It was unprofessional, and I understand the standard we're expected to uphold, regardless of circumstance." Audrey's response was both reassuring and enlightening, reinforcing the conversation's impact. "It's understandable, such moments can arise in high-pressure environments. What truly matters is how we learn from them and reinforce our shared values." The discussion continued, focusing on paths toward heightened collaboration and communication. Audrey articulated the distinctiveness between appearance and substance, guiding Rachel to see the wider picture where character and efficiency take precedence over superficial impressions. By the meeting's conclusion, Rachel's posture was no longer rigid with defiance or anxiety. She saw the conversation not as retribution but as a catalyst for development and opportunity to redefine her trajectory. Audrey had empowered Rachel with a vision of change, one destined to end in transformation rather than simple reconciliation. The adjustment was echoed across the ranks. Each crew member felt the subtle shifts upon their return to work, from the nuanced greetings exchanged to collaborative briefings marked by inclusion. The urgency of aligning toward a collective vision was invigorating, fueling enthusiasm, encouraging engagement, and fostering innovation. Audrey's hands-on approach encouraged dialogue and approachability, setting a precedent for all ranks. Her visit to the mechanics, logistics, and even security teams went beyond formal niceties, each exchange rooted in practical engagement. Staff meetings became avenues for two-way communication, filled with soundboards reflecting areas requiring attention and avenues ripe for exploration. While Audrey shared company-wide memos outlining her vision, it was her presence and openness that clearly resonated with the team, further establishing her status as a leader intent on building bridges, nurturing potential, and cementing trust. Conversations floated among employees, detailing Audrey Blake's imprint, the woman who once entered soaked from rain, now drenched in respect and hope. Her strategy involved more than mere directives, it was layered with a participatory ethos, one reinforced by smaller gestures, aligning staff under a shared banner. A brief yet meaningful interaction took place between Audrey and Rachel toward the end of the week. It was in the quiet confines of the break room, unembellished but significant. Rachel approached Audrey, offering her gratitude for the opportunity to grow, a sentiment Audrey received with warmth, extending amiable reassurance. Rachel's determination to adhere to the revised ethos was apparent. She undertook additional mentorship and development sessions, all in pursuit of reinforcing her skill set and enhancing the intra-team dynamic. Her part of Audrey's story had begun with an unfounded dismissal, and now found itself shaped by honesty, willingness, and renewal. In meetings and corridors, Audrey's presence became synonymous with shared success and momentum. Her footsteps marked more than mere passage, they were milestones that bridged divisions, echoing across desks and departments. As Audrey prepared to close another week of progress and continued alignment, she walked the corridors alongside the senior management team, their discussions weaving around broader strategies and impactful initiatives. Her presence exuded authority, yet she remained approachable and attentive, a leader whose adeptness was magnified in her everyday interactions. The afternoon sun, now bathing the terminal in a golden hue, framed Audrey's path as she moved through the airy expanses of the airport, emblematic of the organization she now spearheaded. Her silhouette, once an underappreciated shadow amid the polished throng, stood like a beacon of empowerment and excellence in leadership. Her journey, firmly anchored now by authenticity and approachability, stood resplendent with the collective potential she reinvigorated, a realm beyond policies and tailored numbers, a voyage of transformation brought to life by character-driven leadership. Today, Audrey didn't just walk the corridors of an airport, she traversed the same runway upon which the entire airline would soar, charting paths beyond geography and elevating an industry inspired by her vision, her governance, and in-depth understanding, echoing well beyond the moment she first stepped aboard, rain-soaked and undeterred.